if people say, I want a really good marriage, I want a really good family, but you see them gone 40% of the year, or they're late from work, or they're over prioritizing all these other areas, that's not about balance. That's about incongruence and a lack of alignment. I think therapy is a form of emotional fitness. You are putting yourself in an intense environment to be asked questions that you don't even know, and be placed in positions and go to places that you would like to lock up for the rest of your life.
Never go there again.
Someone is having you face and feel something that is so uncomfortable, but they're doing it with you. And then once you come out of that, you don't have to be so scared of it. You feel competency in it, and then you feel capable to do more the next time.
Welcome to the Fear No Food podcast, health and nutrition stuff for us normal people. Today, I have a truly special guest, my friend, Andy Maurer. He's the founder of Pusue Whole. Andy's a leadership specialist, mental health expert, executive coach, who has really dedicated his work to helping high performers, so leaders, business leaders, athletes, live more connected and meaningful lives. And we're going to dig into why that's important here in a minute. Through his coaching programs like the Forged program, Vision Guides, Andy works with leaders to help them navigate that internal and relational challenges that they face. And one of the reasons why I wanted Andy on, and I'm glad that you're here, is because I think we see a lot of folks come to us because they focus so heavily on their careers to the detriment of their health, their relational health, and it's all connected, right? And so super excited. Welcome, Andy. Really glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. Well, before we kind of dive into the nitty gritty, I would love to just start right out the gate with what are, or why do you think mental and relational health often suffers for high achievers?
Yeah.
And then we can kind of riff on, how that plays into the food choices and diet and stuff.
Yeah, I think obviously our culture has taught priorities in a very upside down way. When I think about priorities for a lot of people, a lot of my leaders that I work with, it's kind of this reverse pyramid where we're taught that your career is the most important thing to invest in, and that's where you should place your identity. And then if you have anything left over, give it to your kiddos. And then if you have anything left over, maybe have a conversation with your wife. And then if you have anything left over after that, take care of yourself. And really what I found, the healthiest kind of units in society and people are those who really prioritize their own health, because you can't give from a cup that's empty. So they really prioritize. They need to prioritize what's going on inside of themselves so that they can share it with those they love. And then that makes healthy families, which makes healthy children. And in return, society is better because of that. And work should be an overflow of our identity and our passion. It shouldn't be the source of our passion. So I think a lot of those things suffer because we're taught and we're trained. You should seek out your identity and your purpose in the work that you do. And we don't really know who we are at times. We don't know what we feel. We don't know where we're headed. And if we don't know that, work becomes more than it should be. Money becomes more than it should be. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But all these amazing tools like fitness and health and money and work, they're supposed to be tools, but we make them the targets of our identity, and that's where really our emotional and relational health suffers.
Why do you think we have these upside down priorities? Is that just like, we live in the West and in America that's how it is, or is it from families? Or
I think it's culturally. I think what leaders are taught or not taught around what it means to be successful. I've talked to a lot of leaders around wealth in particular, and you ask this question of, when is it going to be enough? Or performance, when will you be enough? Or athletes, what is enough? And no one knows how to answer that question because there's no end to that question. So I think cultures like work cultures, sports cultures teach us that we need to do better, be better, and there's no limit to that. But I also think just family of origin, what we learn about our unique value in the world is that we're often admired, loved, and respected, not because of who we are, but because of how we produce. And that often leads us to pretty unhealthy places when your family of origin doesn't really know you at your core, but they look at you and they affirm you and they admire you when you perform. And then you learn, oh my gosh, I can get a lot in this world if I just perform for people. Yeah. But then you lose touch with your own personal identity.
Yeah, that's good. That makes me think of in the movie Dune, there's like the
It's
Duke.
a great movie.
Yeah, the Duke Atreides, and he's kind of having this fight with his son, and he gives the son the ring, and the son's like, what if I don't want this burden? And he's like, well, then you'll have been what I've ever needed you to be, which is my son, which was just like, oh, such a good.
So powerful.
Yeah. And we see that a lot too with just like, even around like how you look, like family of origin can really dictate food choices and health choices and your health outcomes.
And the way parents talk about their own fitness, their own health, their own nutrition. Kids are like sponges. So kids feel energy more than they hear what is said. So if a mother or father feels shame about their body, covers it up, or over prioritizes their health or fitness, and the kid only ever sees the parent weighing everything, and food is this huge thing in the family, the parents might never say things around that, but the kid's feeling all this energy that, there's anxiety around the body, there's anxiety around food, and they'll just pick up that food has more power than it should.
Oh, that's good. So what is balance? Like, is balance achievable? Should it be, all sides of my balance wheel are equal? It doesn't matter how low they are in the balance wheel, or is it okay that one side is higher at different times? Like, how do you think about that, or think about that with your clients?
I don't. To me, it's not about balance as much as it is about kind of moving through life as a flow state. Because I think what a lot of leaders and, especially your role around food and nutrition, if you want it to, it can become a very rigid thing and a very big place of control. And we can go black and white, right or wrong, yes or no. And instead, I think a lot of life is way more about wisdom and flowing through hardship and figuring out what is the best thing in this situation, or, oh my gosh, who do I need to be in this moment that maybe I need to tap into a part of myself that maybe I wasn't in that mindset. Maybe I was in my work mindset, but my wife is needing to process with me, or my kid is breaking down. How do I shift and tap into that more emotional connected part? I had a client who's done a lot of really good work, and he told me this, story of just how he approaches balance in his own life. And he's like, I kind of see life as this, everyone has their own song, they have this own song for their life that is built for them. But songs have all these different notes and rhythms. And when those notes and rhythms are played in conjunction with each other, it plays this beautiful song, but sometimes those notes get out of order, and then there's a clunkiness to that song. And I love the way he said that, because I think that's very true, that like you have your own purpose and calling in your life. I have my own purpose and calling. And we just need to be attuned to when are those notes out of order, and when am I distant from who I said I want to be, and that my lifestyle is not congruent. So I actually think, rather than the word balance, I think alignment is actually a better word. So
tell me more about that.
Yeah, asking people, how aligned are you with who you say you want to be and where you say you want to head, and the decisions and behaviors that you're making currently. And no one is perfect in that, but I think, if people say, I want a really good marriage, I want a really good family, but you see them gone 40% of the year, or they're, getting home late from work, or they're over prioritizing all these other areas, to me, that's not about balance. That's about incongruence and a lack of alignment. So we either need to do one of two things there. We need to bring our vision and values down to match our behavior, or our behavior needs to change to align with our vision and values.
Is it usually a combination of both, or is it usually one or the other?
For perfectionists, it's taking those vision and values down to a standard that is not godlike, that there is opportunity for failure. You don't need to get it perfect.
Like I should be making $40,000 a month and have a six pack and have, be able to
and lose 40 pounds in a week, right, and all these things.
Yeah.
Which this because you've been in behavior change for so long. When you set standards and goals that are beyond your capacity and your resources and your level of growth at that time, all you experience is failure and despair. And I've been in behavior change for 20 years, first as a personal trainer, and then as a therapist, and now as a coach. And that is almost one of the most important things, is making sure there's alignment between someone's capacity emotionally, mentally, financially and the goals that they're setting for themselves, because I want them to feel that sense of success, even the small success. But when you jump too far and all you experience is failure, like a lot of perfectionists do, you stop liking the growth because you just feel like a failure all the time. Yeah. And I think we do this to ourselves all the time as fathers, as mothers, as leaders, as people pursuing goals in our life, as our standards on ourselves are just super high. And I've had to really work with this around how I talk to myself to not be so critical and harsh. I've had to learn how to be very compassionate with myself because I can be the hardest on myself. And it's so fascinating because all these amazing leaders that you see out there, and they're loving people, they're caring for people, supporting people. You sit down with them and you ask them, how's your relationship with yourself when you make a mistake? And they're like, I can't stand myself. I don't like myself. I'm super hard on myself. And it's like, that's weird because you are so kind to everyone else. But to me, that is the hardest journey, is learning how to have compassion on the imperfections inside of yourself and learn to love yourself.
Have you come across anybody who's done that really well? Because I feel like that's like seems to be all of our issues. I feel like that seems to be more common than not. And we hear that a lot here at Revitalize, where it's like people are coming because they fundamentally don't like their body. They don't like themselves. And I have, as a quick aside, I have a kind of a mixed view about that, because I like there's certain elements of this body positivity movement that I think are good. Like, you should be coming from a place of self-love, but I also know the people who've worked on their bodies the hardest love their bodies the most. Yes. They work on their business a lot. They love their business. They work on their marriage a lot. They love their, and so it's like, there is this, a little bit of like, you don't want to be moving into things through just self-shame and just like, oh, I'm just one down all the time. But like, are there any examples of people that you're like, man, this person just had like their internal dialogue was like, I'm dope as hell. Like I have had, I get to witness and observe a lot of people's journeys like you do. And I have seen that a lot with my clients, where they had such a critical core, and that critical core has turned to a sense of compassion and curiosity. But they've made choices along that journey to forgive themselves or to put something back, in their family of origin that they've been carrying around a sense of perfectionism. So I do think it's possible, and I have seen it. But, we're human beings, so we slide back into habits and behaviors that are, and, I think about that a lot, because I think it's really driven by our need to want to be approved by others. And we're trying to perform. Like, I think human beings are built to want and need to be loved for who they are. Like, that's a fundamental human need, that I'm wanted, I'm loved, and I'm pursued. And what I learned really growing up was that my love came to me when I performed for my father. And when I didn't perform for my father, I got more kind of that harsh side, and I didn't get that sense of warmth. So I learned really quick, this love, this thing I have with my father, it's a little bit more built around not who I am, because my dad didn't ask me a lot of questions about who I am. It was about, what did I get done in a day? So I took that into high school and into college, and I was very successful at that. Like, that got me, doing 2 master's degrees at the same time, having 3 jobs, doing whatever I can to like make things happen, adding value to people. But I really had to come to a point where I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm climbing a ladder that every time I go to the next rung, it's like more on top. And I remember reaching a point where I had to decide, if I'm not content with myself right now in this moment, if I don't love myself for who I am today, what I want, and who I am, there's no point in the future where I'm going to be able to say that. If I can't say that today, that I'm enough, not because of what I do, but just because of who I am as a person, there's nothing I'm going to do in the future that's going to make me feel like I can say that. So that was a really big shift for me, where I moved from worth and value coming from performance and more focused on purpose and meaning and calling. How would that look in like you're trying to change your health, like you're on a health journey, you're trying, you've got your health goals. Like, because I think, when I've engaged with our counselor, my wife and I have a counselor that we love and we see from time to time. My biggest fear going into that was like, I want to be more content and have what we've just talked about. But I'm really afraid to become complacent. How do you balance those two things? Where like, I just don't want to stay here, but I do want to move through life with less critical inner dialogue.
Yeah. I mean, it's really difficult because when I work with athletes, contentment is their word they never say. Because that is a major threat to them, because contentment means you give up and you stop trying. And to them, they're in a game where as soon as you put your foot off of the gas, you could get traded, your performance could drop. I think around fitness and health, for me, I've been into fitness for the last 20 years. It's been a massive part of my life. It's actually been a very healing part of my story. And I care a lot aesthetically about how I look, the way I feel. I want to put good food into my body. I like exercise. I like eating well. But like right now, I'm on a bulk, or I'm trying to build, and then I'll go on to a cut. But the reality is, those are pretty abnormal stages that don't feel very good. That's not really how I want to live my lifestyle. So like, I need to figure out, okay, what is enough to build a bulk? What's enough to build a cut? Why am I cutting to this ideal number in my head? What does that even mean? And then to the point of, what does it look like for me to not do check-ins and weigh-ins? What does it look like for me to not have to think about everything that comes in my mouth, to be able to just have a lifestyle that is a little bit more chill for a while and focus and prioritize on maybe some other things. And then I see it more as challenges, like, okay, I'm entering into a challenge. And that's actually how we talk to our kids about it around fitness and nutrition, is we say, mommy and daddy are doing a new challenge. We're trying to push ourselves. We're trying to do this hard thing. But I know that's not a lifestyle. So for me, I try to find this balance between, when am I going to go hard and when do I just need to chill and just enjoy?
Yeah, totally. There's an author that I follow, and he was talking about just a little bit of that, where it's like, there's like the fasting. So like, what structure are you in? The feasting when you're going through the holidays, and then like, but that's not all the time. Yeah. Right. And you can't just oscillate between the two, which is like really unhealthy, yo-yoing, right? But what's the ordinary fare? What does like regular life look like? That's good. Or I guess like, talk to me about the role of like emotional fitness. Like, what is emotional fitness? Should we, if my listeners are like on a wellness journey or a weight loss journey or trying to get their physical health, what is that relationship? What is emotional fitness, and what is that relationship with the other areas of fitness in your life?
Yeah. So I thought about this idea of emotional fitness because I come from being a trauma therapist for 5 years and now being a coach. And there's mental health and there's emotional well-being, but then there's emotional fitness, which when I think about fitness, I think about pushing yourself to limits and extremes of discomfort for the sake of growth. Now, you can be emotionally healthy, which is like, I'm doing things to enhance my mood and my energy. But then there's emotional fitness, which is I'm putting myself in very uncomfortable positions for the sake of growth. So one thing that I've done before, I think therapy is a form of emotional fitness. You are putting yourself in an intense environment to be asked questions that you don't even know and be placed in positions and go to places that you would like to lock up for the rest of your life.
Never go there again. Yeah.
But someone is having you face and feel something that is so uncomfortable, but they're doing it with you. And then once you come out of that, you don't have to be so scared of it. You feel competency in it, and then you feel capable to do more the next time. It's kind of like an ice bath, right? Like, I get in a cold plunge and I freak out in my body and I'm like, I don't want to do this. Looking at a cold plunge, I hate being cold. Getting in a cold plunge, I freaking hate it. But the more that I do it and the longer I stay in it, I build this tolerance. So emotional fitness is about building a tolerance and not tapping out. And I think especially for human beings around connection, I think we need to build a better tolerance around eye contact. I think we need to build a better tolerance around vulnerability. I think we need to build a tolerance around asking good questions and letting there be silence. Pause before you interject because you're uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, it's been 2 seconds. Right. Because that in-between state, that discomfort, that is where kind of the magic happens. That's where you have those deep revelations. That's where someone feels seen, known, and heard. It's like that moment when you're with your spouse and there's tears or there's sadness, or you have tears or sadness, and there's just a hug of embrace, or there's just a holding of hands. There's just a being in it together. Those have been almost more healing for me than the talking about the tears. It's just the presence in it. And that's an emotional fitness. That's a tolerance to develop. And I just think, especially in Western society, we're really bad at that. We medicate everything. If you have enough money and resources, you can outsource pretty much any pain. So you really don't have to sit in it. And you don't have to communicate it, because you can self-isolate and you can cope in all these different ways with alcohol or drugs or food or sex, all these different ways that you can cope. Like, you don't have to go there if you don't want to.
Right. Yeah, totally. When we see this a lot in our practice, where it's like alcohol or food becomes or has been the coping the coping mechanism to escape. And, medicators, they serve a purpose. Like they're, I know some individuals who abuse alcohol, but if they didn't have that, I think they'd fall apart. Like, it's like in this season of their life, that is, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but there's a reason that you're going to it. I don't judge people for the tools that they have in their tool belt, because, I grew up in family of origins where maybe we had broken marriages, broken families, alcoholics, single parents, abuse, all this stuff. And you grow up and you start to use these tools to cope with the difficulties of life. And I don't think we should really judge people for the reality that they just have a very limited toolbox. So they might be using alcohol, and that's what they figure that they need to use to cope. But I think in those stages, really coming alongside them and being like, hey, I want to teach you different tools, different resources, so you don't have to feel so bad. You don't have to have such a negative impact. Connection, communication, know what you feel, know how to share what you feel is a tool that most of us never got. So what do? We don't talk about what we feel. And then we go to alcohol or all these other things to make us feel better, because we don't know. I don't even know what I feel. And if I don't know what I feel, I can't communicate what I feel. And then if I don't have a friendship with people or a tight-knit community, I don't feel secure to share what I feel. And then if those people haven't done work and they don't know what they feel, there's judgment and critique, so they don't make me feel seen in what I feel. Like, there's so many layers that we have to do coping well. And I don't always do it well, but I want to do it better. Yeah, totally. I feel like just having a coach is like one of the biggest hacks. And I think about in like the biggest levels up that I've had in my professional career, in my own emotional fitness, it's like when I'm paying somebody to be in it with me. And I think oftentimes people think with the nutrition side, oh, you're going to teach me macros, you're going to teach me to eat more veggies. And it's like, yeah, there's some of that blocking and tackling, but the reality is we end up playing therapist more often than not to help you understand, like, why are we grabbing the chips at 10 p.m. instead of going to sleep and doing the things that you say you want to do and uncovering that stuff. If you're enjoying this podcast and would like to learn more about what you can do at home to take control of your health, check out our book. It's an Amazon bestseller. It's called Fear No Food. It's written by myself and Dr. Abood. You can get it at fearnofoodbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon by just typing in Fear No Food, Dan Lemoyne. So we talked about like those, I love that framework of like, these are the tools that you've been given. Do you feel like there's, working with high achievers, to me at least, it seems like there's almost like a disproportionate amount of going into some of those coping mechanisms. Is that what you find as well? I just think, and this is really sad, but I think when you have wealth and you have connections and you have resources, you really can outsource a lot of pain.
Like we talked about, you don't have to deal with that versus someone in poverty, someone who's a single mother. Like, you're just more raw and exposed to what is actually real. So you can hide a lot easier behind all kinds of stuff when you have resources. And I'm not saying that's, that means that their life is easier. I'm not saying that at all, because when you have wealth and you have prestige and you have notoriety, there are a lot of pains there that people who don't have to deal with. Those things are things that break marriages and break people oftentimes. But I do think it is easier to hide when you have power to hide what's inside. But at the same time, people who don't have those resources to hide almost have deeper connection and intimacy because they have to. These people don't have to, so they don't have to go there if they don't want to. So for me, my job, I think as a coach, one of the best things that I can do is create a very sacred, safe space for leaders to come in and say what they need to say, feel what they need to feel, and know what they need to know in order to progress towards their journey of wholeness and health. Because a lot of healing is honestly just being honest with yourself. You know, I was thinking about, we've all heard this idea in wellness around being present, and everybody wants to be present and they want to be content. And I was thinking last year, I'm like, what does it even mean to be present for me? And I thought, okay, being present with my kids, with my wife, with you, that means that I don't fear what is inside of myself. Being fully present is not fearing what is inside of yourself. No spaces that I haven't gone or tried to go, no fears or thoughts or feelings that I'm not willing to face. And there's a real peace and comfort that comes in our bodies when we just go, I have a painful story, I have insecurity, I have fear, I have anger, I'm hurting here, I'm sad here, but you know what? It's okay. I see it, I name it, I feel it, and then we're able to just be. But when we don't want to feel it, when we don't want to acknowledge we're really insecure, things aren't going well, we have to, it's like boxing up things in a house, and you can't really be at peace.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've talked, and I'm sure you've done this too, but we've talked to folks who are like, you're clearly not ready to make any change because there hasn't been this like moment where I'm saying like, this is what's inside and I'm ready to open the lid and like, let's work through that, whether that's in like the food and nutrition and body space or the emotional space. And it's like, yeah, this probably isn't a good fit because it's clear that like, we're just not at that place to even
You're
go
not
there.
at a place to go where you need to go to experience what you say you want. So that's the thing, as for you as a coach, it's like, or what you do, it's like, it's your job to tell someone that they're not being honest with their reality and therefore they won't achieve what they are going to achieve. I have conversations with clients all the time where I'm like, listen, I'm hearing what you want. I'm hearing who you want to be, but you're not, every time we come in here, you're bouncing, you're talking about this, and this, and then we drop down into feeling and then you bounce back up and you go here, 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 here. And I'm like, you're not dealing with what's actually going on. So all this vision of who you want to be cannot happen unless you face that fear. And that's what we then address is like, what's so scary about going there? But that is part of our job as coach, is to break that sense of alignment with people and say, you're out of alignment with what you say and how you show up.
So we talked about alignment, and I'm tracking with that. I think what we see sometimes, and I'd like to get your input, is that where like there's a lack of vision. And one of the stark examples or patterns that I've seen emerge is like, we'll get folks who they need to lose like 10 to 15 pounds and they're very discontent with where they're at because they've lived, maybe they're on the more the perfectionist side of scale where they're like, I know how I want my body to look. I know how I want my body to feel. I've been there recently and I want to get back there. And they are ready to make a change because they have a clear vision and it's tangible because they've lived that recently. An hour later, sitting down with somebody who's 350 pounds, just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, has all of the obesity-related things, and you'd be like, dude, you need this. And they're just like, I don't know if I'm ready to, I don't think, and so why, like, that to me, that's just like lack of vision. It's like, oftentimes that person who's 350 pounds is like, could I even lose 100 pounds? Like, is that even doable? It just feels so overwhelming.
I think it's a lack of vision, but it's honestly a lack of empowerment. It's a lack of competency, which is the ability to feel confident that we can achieve a goal we set for ourselves. And they probably on the inside, that scenario is, those people, there's a part of them that wants it, but they have this stronger part. It's like the big brother, super strong, very dominant. Then you got the little brother, the big brother comes out and says, you're never going to achieve that. We've tried over and over again. You're just a failure. Why would you even go down this road? And then they go, I don't think I can do that, or I don't want to do that, because they have this voice on the inside telling them who they are. And I do think the reason why, part of why I've been able to stay healthy and fit for so long is because fitness, being healthy is not something I do. It's something about who I am as a person. So you have to make behavior change become identity. That Andy Maurer is someone who takes care of his body. Andy Maurer is someone who eats well and exercises. That's not a thing I do. That's what I know about who Andy is. That's become a part of my identity. So when I don't go to the gym, or when I don't eat well, or I do all these things, it's out of alignment with my identity. Identity drives behavior.
Yeah, I think that's important to note too. That's like those things still happen. Like
Yes.
Andy still eats a donut from time to time. Andy still
Yes.
misses workouts.
Yes.
But it's like
My ice cream bar last night tasted fantastic.
yeah. But it's like, hey, that's incongruent with my identity. So it's not going to continue.
It's not a rigid alignment. It's just that awareness of going, something is out of whack. And when it comes to purpose is a combination of two things. Purpose is a result of your craft and your calling. So let me break that down for a second. Purpose doesn't just happen. It's our craft and our calling beautifully coming together. Our craft is the combination of our unique skills and gifts that we've been born with and that we've developed over time. So you take kind of your top three and you mesh those together, and it creates this kind of Venn diagram. That center point, that's your superpower. That's your unique gift. You've been through things, you know things, you've been through things, you've experienced things that makes you uniquely good at what you do. Viktor Frankl has a book called Man's Search for Meaning. It's a very powerful book. Holocaust survivor, psychotherapist, and he was looking at why do people lose a sense of purpose. And he said, when you feel like there's nothing unique inside of yourself where you could be replaced by another, you lose your will to live. You have to have a sense that there's something unique about me that's different than everyone else in the world. And that is true. I really do believe that. But it's a combination of your gifts as a child, your natural gifts, your experiences, and your story together. And when that unique craft that you have, that skill you have, who you are, matches your calling, which I believe is calling is almost a spiritual force behind you. It's that feeling of, I'm built to do something in the world to make a positive change. There's something that me and me only can do in this world, and I want to figure out what that is. And a great way to figure out what that is to ask yourself, what is the pain in the world that you wish never existed? And if you just sit with that, what is the pain in the world that I wish never existed? Whether it's child abuse, whether it's poverty, whether it's disordered families, or whether it's something as simple as inefficiencies in how cars work, that it causes frustration and angst and causes problems. Whatever it is, that's probably somewhere in your story or someone that you love story that dramatically caused a lot of pain. So craft is your gifts. Calling is how your pain of your past matches the passion of your present, and that becomes the purpose of your future. So calling is how your pain, when it's healed, becomes your passion, and that passion becomes your purpose. So you take your craft, you take that calling and that passion, and then you channel that, and that becomes your sense of purpose. So my purpose in life is to help leaders and those they love pursue wholeness. Now, that's a lot related to our business and Pursue Whole, but guess what Pursue Whole came out of? It came out of my purpose and my passion. I didn't just create Pursue Whole to make money. I created it because this is what I'm called to do. If Pursue Whole goes away and ceases to exist, I'd be really sad. It'd be super stressful, but I'm still going to figure out how to live my calling in some other business, some other venture, whatever it is. And that gives me a ton of freedom and power. And I do think around fitness and health, you do have to have a sense of, how does fitness and health help me accomplish my purpose?
Okay, that was going to be my question. Like when my mind defaults to what you were talking about earlier of like, when I hear purpose, I think of career. Yeah. And then the rest of the stuff is extra. And so how do you unify and align, like for you, that being your purpose, how does that inform your health choices or your relational health and things like that?
Yeah. Those things like fitness and health, supplementation, emotional, the work I do with a therapist or a coach, all of those are tools to help me accomplish my purpose in this life. And why do I limit certain things in my life? Why do I limit toxic relationships or really, hurtful people? Why do I limit the amount of time I spend, on social media? Because those things actually detract me from my purpose. They take me out of who I am as a person, my authentic core, and my unique purpose in this world. So think of life as a list of tools on a table, rhythms and routines and programs as tools. And you look at those tools and you go, which ones are going to help me get to my purpose faster and better? And which ones are going to keep me from that? Look at people in those ways sometimes. Don't look at people as tools, but you need to assess the quality of friendship and say, are these types of people going to be able to help me accomplish my purpose, or are they not going to help me accomplish my purpose? The problem with what I just described is that most people don't know what their purpose is. So guess what they do to this table of tools? They go, this is my purpose. All these tools, if I can get really good at these and be masterful at all these, then I'll have worth and value. Then I'll feel a sense of accomplishment. But guess what? More tools come on the table, new products, new things, new fads. Ooh, I need that thing. I need that thing. Because the table and all those tools have become their sense of identity because they don't have a sense of identity. So this is why it's so important, because if you don't know your craft, you don't feel confident in your craft. If you don't know your sense of purpose based on your pain and how your pain is healed to give you a passion, very easy to look at life as just a bunch of never-ending things to level up. And that's pretty discouraging and depressing. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
You should live with a sense of passion and purpose. Not every day, I don't wake up every day feeling jazzed, but I always come back to this place of passion and purpose because I know what I'm called to do. And I know uniquely how my pain and my story, my trauma, my abuse, my brokenness has brought me into a place of healing of who I am that has equipped me to take others on the journey that I take them on. And that's a very inspiring thing to do to people. Like when your clients or when other people are on this weight loss journey or fitness journey or wellness journey, talk about the story of why that's important to you. Don't just talk about the stuff. Tap into what you've had to go through, what it felt like, why this is important to you now, and start inspiring other people towards living a healthier, more whole life, not just with products or ideas, but with vision for who they could be and what's ahead.
Yeah, I feel like when we look at our most long-term successful clients, they had a very clear and compelling why they're doing it versus I've got this wedding coming up. And while that can still be very compelling in the short term, if you fail to connect it to a broader purpose or a more long-term, but it's I think of one of our clients, Steve, just wrestled his whole life. Then when his granddaughter was born and he was like, I can't get into the airplane seat comfortably. And she lives across States, he was like, and that is his driving force, to lose 90 pounds.
Yes. And this is why I just had a conversation with a buddy of mine about these GLP-1 drugs and all these things, right?
Let's go there right now.
So, and he's like, should we use these tools because they're helping people achieve their goal? And I said, well, we have to break this down because we are the most comfortable society ever. For thousands of years, people were exposed to illness, the elements, everything. Discomfort, pain was a natural part of life. Hard work was a natural part of life. And when you do hard work and you overcome pain, you get this beautiful reward of fulfillment. When you outsource and you skip hurdles, I'm not saying those things are bad, but when you do that so often, where you're always looking for the easier route, you lose a massive sense of fulfillment at the end of the journey. And you actually lose a sense of confidence that you had what it takes to do it. Like for my house, the house that we lived in before, I redid a lot of that house. I redid our pantry and I redid our bathrooms and a bunch of stuff. When I was in that house, I felt like I love this home because I know what it took. The hours and hours it spent to put that arch in or to put that wood on the wall.
It's like what I was saying before. It's like the people who spend time working on their house. They love their house more.
They love their house.
On their body. They love their body more.
And then it's like if you just have someone come in and a designer and they just do it, yeah, that's nice. It's beautiful, but you don't have this connection and attachment to it as much. And the most important thing that you have connection and attachment to is your sense of self. So when you use all those tools to outsource, it really gets in the way of that sense of confidence and fulfillment. I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on it too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about this all the time because there are days I come home just being like, what did I do today? And I just feel like worthless. And then there's days that it feels super fulfilling, and it's like, oh, those were days that I got to create. I was able to, I used to outsource some of my email marketing. Now I write all those emails and like, I really enjoy that. And I think there is something to that, like, while I'm not working with my hands, to just be at the end of the day, be like, look what I did.
Absolutely.
And there's something really gratifying, which is why people garden and they do work on their house, because there's something really nice about like doing things in the real world and having like a set, like, I finished this. Like, we revamped our whole program and our journal and materials this summer. And I was talking with Danae just the other day, and she's like, well, what really jazzes you up? And she's like, you were up till like 3 a.m. like every night. I couldn't get you to come to bed because you were working on that project. And I think that for me, I wallow when it's just never ending emails, kind of just like, fighting fires here and there, versus like, I have a purpose in this is what we're working on. This is what we're rolling out. And there's a defined end date.
Because you are creating. I think a conversation I have with a lot of clients around purpose is your life full of creation or consumption? Are you living your day just absorbing what other people tell you should do, absorbing things, taking things into your system through your 5 senses? Or are you actively working to create? I'm a creator at heart. So my whole purpose in life is to create products, services, ideas, and experiences for people to connect with themselves, connect with others, and connect with their craft, calling, and purpose. Like, that is what I love to do. I love getting into those things and building new programs and ideas and businesses and services. And I feel much more fulfillment in that than just absorption and consumption. And I just think a lot of people, they go through their day just consuming. They just absorb, and they haven't thought about, how do I want to create the life that I really want, the marriage that I want, the health that I want. I get to choose how to create that. There's a lot of power in creation.
Or I also think that there's like, I think of, I do think there's a little bit of like, we've been hijacked, where it's like, hey, actually your work is super meaningful. Accounting, or sewing a pair of pants in a textile factory or something like that. But we've been hijacked by this comparison. Like, I'm on social media and I'm seeing, well, this is what my life should look like. Somebody else has told me that like this isn't dignified work, when it's like, no, actually this is dignified work, and it's good, and it's putting food on my table, and I'm producing something that's meaningful.
I can feel really good about my work and myself, go on LinkedIn and feel like a complete failure 5 minutes later and be like, oh gosh, like, why can't I do this, or why can't I have this? And comparison is the thief of joy. It's just, and there's in life.
I want to camp out on that for a minute, but keep going.
So in life, it's like, there will always be someone who's better looking than you, someone who's more fit than you, and someone who's less fit than you, someone who has more money than you, and someone who has less money than you. Someone has more friends and less friends. Like, whatever you want to put on the table, there's always going to be someone who has it better and has it worse.
But I think the difference is, when we were growing up, and this, now we're just going to sound like old guys, but like before smartphones, like, you only had to compete with the other, there's 400 kids in your high school.
Exactly.
And there's only, the hottest guy in school who has a 6-pack and is the quarterback. It's like, that's who I'm trying to compete with. Yeah. Now kids are having to compete with millions of other Instagram influencers, and it's like, it's got to be crushing.
Millions.
But
yeah, but that idea of comparison is the thief of joy.
So, okay, let me play devil's advocate here, because I feel like I've achieved things in my life out of just a straight sense of like
grit,
comparison, and that guy's better. Like, I think Mickey Franco, if you're out there, props to you. You're a great guy. But I thought of him every time I was in the gym because he played for Ohio State. They always beat us. He was my opposite number. And I ended up playing on some all-star teams. He's a really fantastic guy. But I still think of Mickey Franco. He's like my frenemy, where it's like Mickey was better. He had great hair and he could throw better passes, like the whole thing. And I feel like that drove me in a good way. What are your thoughts on that?
I like competition. Like Charity knows I'm a pretty territorial person. So like when I'm in the gym and I see someone like, rowing the 70-pound dumbbells, I'll go grab the 80s. They grab the 90s, I'll go grab the 100s. And just, you're just going at it. And like the amount of people that told me I couldn't do things in my life, and for me to just go, that makes me want it even more. I will make this happen and I will show you. And I think part of what that is it's this fighting back against who people tell me I should be or what I am. And I'm like, no, I get to choose who I am. But then we need to remember there are two definitions. I taught sports psychology at the college level for a while. So like this whole idea of like, what is sports psychology? What is competition? There's competition and then there's decompetition. Okay. So competition is when you enter in an agreement with someone, stated or informal, where there are rules to a game, and the process of that relationship is that you abide by certain standards where that person, them being their best, makes you play better. Okay. Then there's decompetition, which is I break the rules, I cheat, I break the rules, and it's not about an agreement where you make me better. My job is to destroy you. I have to dehumanize you and destroy you in order to feel good about myself. So competition is really powerful, which is the ability of you push me, I push you, I want to beat you, you want to beat me, and you push, but you don't violate certain standards of that.
Tracking.
Yeah.
But what about like, I feel like, what if you're just like, I am unsatisfied with my body? And is that I wrestle with like, in the perfect world, you're moving into a program like ours or getting into the gym from a place of, rainbows and puppy dogs and unicorns and all this self-love. But like, guess what? Like fear and shame is also like a pretty motivating thing. What are your thoughts to that statement?
Yeah. Fear and shame are great early stage motivators. They're horrible long-term lifestyle changers. So if you need fear to get you in the door, you need love and purpose to keep you on the journey. So it's like, think about it as get through the door or stay consistent on the journey. If you need to use fear, I don't know if shame's a great motivator. I think it's pretty toxic. Shame is not guilt. Guilt is I did something wrong. I don't like something. I can change that thing, that behavior. Shame is I'm a horrible person. I'm worthless, and therefore I'm not good enough. That really doesn't serve anyone well in general. If someone else needs to get you through the door, if everyone else is telling you need to go do it, you don't want to do it, let it get you through the door. But as soon as you walk through the door, you have to make a choice of will you continue that on your own free will, be for something inside of you.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. And just to be clear, I'm not saying like you should go shame your spouse or like make them fearful.
It might work. We don't know.
You might not have a marriage then.
All the spouses that are like, I want my spouse to get in and do some work. Yeah. I should shame them.
Isn't there like a Peloton commercial where that got they got canceled or something because the guy like bought the woman the Peloton for Christmas?
Yeah,
and like,
exactly. Yeah. It's like you leave the book. There's a book that I suggest to clients. There's a book that I suggest to clients called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And when I always joke to my clients, where I'm like, what if you just like left that on your parents' table?
Yes.
Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And like, oh, sorry, I forgot my book. And they're like, it's so clear on what it's about.
Well, Don and Karen, my parents, listen to the podcast, so I wouldn't leave that on your
We would not order that book for you.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I feel like that's helpful. I mean, this is turning into a little bit of a coaching session for me, which is why I tricked you onto this. Yeah, exactly. But because I think I operate more like I think of Chariots of Fire, right? Like the Eric Little, the main character is like I run out of this sense of passion and purpose, and I feel God's delight when I run. Yes. And then his competitor, equally as good or just as good, but is just like running to like not lose and out of this fear, and it's like still same result-ish, but like the consternation and the unjoy that he had throughout that whole journey. And I think I probably more default to that.
I think a lot of people do. I know that I do at times. And I have had to transition from living a life out of fear and people pleasing, because I used to be a pretty big people pleaser, because I really wanted to be wanted by people. I really wanted to be close to people. So I realized I can become whatever this person needs me to become. I don't have to talk about what I need and want. I can just be what they need and want. That really started to make me bitter, started to make me really emotionally unhealthy.
Bitter or better?
Bitter.
Bitter.
And it really hurt my marriage because I wasn't being honest about what I needed. I was projecting a ton on my wife, and I was very codependent with her. And
what does codependent mean?
Codependent, so there's three terms. There's independent, codependent, and then dependent. So or independent. So independent is I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. Codependent is I need someone to feel good about myself or secure in myself.
Like I'm not okay.
I'm not okay if you pull away. Independent is I don't care if you pull away. I just need myself. Both of those are unhealthy, but they both have some strengths. Codependent, you're super close, too close. Independent is you're very self-assured, very self-confident. But then there's interdependent. So there's you, there's me, and then there's us, that center point. The us is that interdependent. I can be me, you can be you, but when we come together, we make this agreement on what is us, what's the best of you, what's the best of me, and how do we come together. So I was more on the codependent side of things because I had a lot of fear. And I had to learn, I don't want to live with people pleasing and fear and always be anxious, a lot of anxiety. I want to live with passion and purpose and play and peace. So a lot of the last couple of years,
I just all happen to have a P at the beginning of the word.
Exactly. I know. The 4 P's of purpose. It has to. So those 4 things I have really, don't forget I said people pleasing too. So that's a lot of P's. 6 of those. So I had to work really hard over the last 4 years or so to go, I want to do something in life that is about my passion and about purpose, and I want to do it playfully. Like I'm a very childlike person. I love to play. I love to play video games with my kids. I love adventure. I love, I grew up with video games. I love doing it with my kids. We were doing a puzzle the other night. Like I just like silly, goofy play. I love magic. That's like a secret thing I never tell my clients because they'd be like, oh, you're my executive coach and you're really weird. I love sleight of hand. I love magic. I love the circus. Like there's just this awe and wonder and playfulness that makes me really good at what I do because you know what it does is it gives me curiosity for people. The best coaches are super curious. They just want to get to know someone and understand them. And then just a sense of peace, which is I know who I am. I know where I'm headed. I'm loved because of who I am, not what I do. And these are all things that I still struggle with. But these are more consistent now than they've ever been. And I want them to continue to grow.
Let's dig into this people pleaser because I think I just had a conversation at our front desk earlier today with a woman she just lost 26 pounds. She's super pumped. She's like, I'm in maintenance mode. I'm going to lose some more. She's started to tear up because she's like, I live in a house with people who aren't eating this way. They don't want to eat this way. I go to social events and it's just like she just feels trapped. She feels trapped that she is going to backslide because she has to please others with the way she eats and the choices she makes. And if she makes the wrong choice or at a social gathering or dinner, she's going to be looked down upon. It's a whole thing, a lot of head trash. What's your take? If you were standing at the front desk, you would just say, well, stop feeling that.
Well, here's the thing why people please. We all have this need to be wanted. Having a tribe, being accepted into a tribe, this is why shame honor cultures are so intense because if you do something that's not in line with the tribe, you are ousted of that tribe. There's a lot of shame that comes with that. There's honor by being fitting into what is the standard. And there's this thing called homeostasis, which I know you know about, which is if you set your temperature in your house to 74, if it gets colder, the heat bumps up. And if it gets hotter, the AC kicks on. And when you go through change in your life for this gal who's done this amazing work and had this amazing success, it's so sad, right? Because she feels so proud, but then her tribe is stuck in this homeostatic state where that new version of her is not what they like.
Yeah.
Because guess what that new version of her forces them to do? Change.
Yeah, she's already trying to make changes in the way she's cooking.
And they don't want to change.
They don't want that.
So what do? They don't say, I don't want to change. They say, something's wrong with you. You need to come back into the way things are. So she's going to really have to figure out, still pursue this need to be wanted, still pursue this need to be seen and affirmed. You just have the wrong tribe. So you need to do a better job now of who you are now, asking the question, who do you need in your life to get you to where you're headed? And it's probably not the people who got you to where you are today. And that's really sad because you have to set some form of boundaries with those people. And by boundaries, it could just be a limitation of time you spend with them.
And what I've found is like just by setting the boundaries, you can quickly polarize who is for you and who isn't. By saying like, hey, we're not going to be about this, or I am not going to drink tonight at girls' night that I love going to. And the friends that like oust you on that, they're probably not your friends. The ones who are like, okay, cool, like we can still have laughs and do all the fun stuff, and you're going to get a mocktail, and they're totally cool with it. They're probably going to be with you in the next
because
stage.
they're for a version of you that is not the best version of you, because that version of you that you were made them feel comfortable and safe. And there's, changes in people are hard to deal with. So, if your spouse changes and they, have different, version of themselves that maybe is hard for you, even expressing that and saying, hey, this is really new for me. I don't know what to do. That, I feel like I haven't gone on this journey and you have, and I feel like that's created distance between us. I don't know what to do about that. I don't want to go on that journey, but I want to be close. So then it's a negotiation of, okay, what does it mean to reconnect? Yeah. But you're talking about people that are just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, but I think that was like, I think what I was trying to articulate is like just having the framework to how to have that conversation, to say like, hey, this is the new me, but I still want, relationship, and how do we move in this together? Yeah. And I think whether we're talking about this or just in general, I think one of the things I see is like the lack of ability to have hard conversations, to express what my needs and wants are, because either I feel like I shouldn't have those needs and wants. I feel guilty if I have those needs and wants. I might come across as, a jerk or a bitch if I say what I need or what I want. Just keeps people trapped. And then they start making decisions based on what they think somebody else might think or might not think. And that's fundamentally, you shouldn't be able to control what somebody else thinks. And yet you live so much of your life in fear of what somebody else might think, and it starts changing how the decisions you make, and that is not.
This is a lot around body image too.
Sure.
What I should wear, what I shouldn't wear, what I should look like, what I shouldn't look like, especially for women more so. But caring so much about the perception of other people instead of really asking yourself, what makes me feel whole and healthy and connected to myself, and changing your tribe to be able to help you get to where you're headed. You can't do it with an old tribe. So you just have to find new people.
But how do you do that when you can't find new people? Like, these are your kids. This is your spouse.
I think you start sharing with them the significance of the journey that you've been on. So this is why it's important to talk about pain, passion, purpose, to really share with them the full story. Because sometimes spouses and kids, they only get a little snapshot. And sometimes it's helpful to go, hey, let me just explain why this is so important to me. So like for my son, when I pull him aside and I have these meaningful conversations with him, when I'm not yelling at him, when he's not yelling at his brother and I'm trying to piece them apart, and I have these meaningful conversations, I'll tell him at times, I said, Achilles, do you know why I asked you so many questions about how you're doing and how you feel? And he's like, no. And I'm like, because me as a boy your age, I didn't get that. And that was a really sad part of Dad's story that I wish that my dad would have done to me. So for me, I want to give that to you because I didn't get that. And this is a way that I want to love you different than how I got. Like it kind of seals that, it makes sense of that whole story. Then it's not just like, why is my dad asking me all these questions? He gets like, oh, I understand.
He's like, get off my balls, Dad. Like, come on.
So when you lose weight or when you go on this health journey, and people don't get that, you can talk to them about, you know what, like I had this feeling about myself and the way I viewed myself for a long time, and that caused a lot of problems. And I really want to live life different. I want to be different. I want to be different for you kids. I want to be different for you as my spouse. And this is the best version of me to help me get there. And I really need your support and your love and not your judgment and critique to help me continue to progress on that journey and be my cheerleader. See, it ties in some details.
Totally different than
That's just
saying
like
hey,
instead of, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go to this, spend a bunch of money on this weight loss thing. And it's like, okay, but you tie it into the story of who you want to become and the pain that you've had. People can offer grace there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, when we talk about where people are at with their body, it's very rarely that's just a matter of like, oh, I just overate. It is usually a symptom of, I mean, it is in some cases, but in many times it's a symptom of relational unhealth. We see that a lot, at least. Or like we see couples come in and sometimes I'm like, blink twice if you're here under duress because you clearly don't want to be here.
All right.
You know, your wife wants you to be here.
And those people don't do well when they're forced to come in.
No.
This is a really important thing you said because we're relational human beings. We're relational creatures. So if we don't know how to bond and connect with human beings, guess what we're going to bond and connect to? Food and other things, because we're relational. So we have to build bonds. We have to build a bond. It's just a matter of, are we building bonds with things and people that can make us feel real and authentic and connected? Or do we not have that? And then we need to build bonds with things that we're using to either take us up or down. There's this thing in psychology called the window of tolerance. Developed by Dan Siegel. And there's this optimal window of performance and well-being. And then there above that window, there's something called hyperarousal, which is you get anxious, you get overwhelmed, you get flooded, your heart rate goes up. And then below that window is hypoarousal, which is depression, exhaustion, I feel flat and lethargic. Throughout your day, you kind of go through that window, but there are triggers where we go up into anxiety or we drop down into depression or exhaustion. And what I see for leaders, what are they using to cope with those windows? Substances. They're doing uppers and they're doing downers. They're doing Coke, they're doing caffeine, then they're doing alcohol, then they're doing sex, then they're doing, it's all these things because they're trying to use external stimuli to calm an internal state. And that's actually what Gabor Mate, an addiction specialist, defines as addiction, is using external stimulus to calm an internal state that you can't deal with. So a lot of these people, they're just all over that window because they don't know inside of their body how to calm themselves. So what do they do to calm? They go on social media or they drink as soon as they get home I can't fall asleep unless I drink.
Or I go to the snack closet.
Or I go to the snack closet. I feel an anxious thought. So I need to go escape. Fantasy, escapism, dopamine hits, pleasure. It's all an attempt to get out of our world that we're currently living in. Like, we just don't want to live in reality.
Totally. But I do think there's also a subset here, and I'm trying to like categorize it in my mind of like so much of relationship does happen over the table, right? And some of those substances, it's like, yeah, if I'm an alcoholic, guess what? I can pretty much get my environment to a place where many of those temptations is gone. Yeah. But it's like food is engineered to be super delicious and addicting. And it is just delicious and addicting. Even if it's whole food, it's delicious. And then you have the beautiful connection over the table with people that then I don't know. I'm trying to like categorize where that comes in because like I can still get addicted to food or abuse food, if you will, but it's still like within a good context. Like this is a good thing, having, sharing a meal and having some wine with friends or whatever, but that can easily become.
Yeah, it can be really connecting or, going to Peter Piper Pizza or Bahama Bucks with your kids. It's like, great. It's fun. Yeah. It's enjoyable. It's an experience. Isolation is an important thing to think about. Is this a social experience or is this in isolation? Am I hiding this behavior? Am I communicating that I'm doing less of this behavior than I'm actually doing? So like, how many drinks did you have last night? Oh, like 2. You had 6. Yeah. So those are all symptoms that there's a problem going on that you don't want to be honest about the level of what it's at. I also think a simple thing you can do is ask your spouse or ask your really close friend, hey, do I have a problem with this? They will, when I would meet with some of these guys around coaching, I'd say, I want you to go home and I want you to ask your wife if she thinks, if she believes that you should do work around knowing what you feel and how to communicate what you feel. And they smile and they go, oh, I already know the answer. And I'm like, what is it? They're like, absolutely. And I'm like, well, there it is. Like your spouse will be able to tell you things about you that you don't want to face and know. So just ask them, hey, do you think I have a problem with this? Do you see me overindulge in this in a way that impacts you in a negative way or impacts our family in a negative way? They'll tell you. You know, but be ready for the honest truth.
Yep.
I've found that human beings are a bad assessor of level of consumption. You know, even as a trainer, when I would ask people what they ate, I said, what do you eat? What did you eat last night or this morning? Oh, I had eggs, and then I had, some oatmeal. I'm like, no, you didn't. I'm like, people lie about what they ate all the freaking time.
Totally.
Because they don't want to tell you that they had a bagel with cream cheese or they didn't eat breakfast or all these things. So they just make up this stuff on the spot because there's so much shame. So we're just, we're not great assessors of our consumption.
Totally.
It can be a great place of connection, but if you're hiding, if you're using more than you, those are all symptoms of addiction, right? It's like, I need more in order to get the same impact. I'm starting to hide this behavior. I'm spending a lot of time, money thinking about this behavior, and this behavior is causing more problems in my life. That's the reality. You probably got a problem.
Yeah. Man.
It's not fun to acknowledge.
No,
I've had
it's
clients
not.
I met with around alcohol, and I'll look at them and ask them, are you an alcoholic? And they're like, why would you even ask me that? I'm like, just answer the question. Are you an alcoholic? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, tell me a little bit about your behavior. And then they get into it, and we realize that they can't not have alcohol, and they drink a lot, and they binge when they're at parties where they feel they can't remember it. And I'm like, so if you had a friend who did that, what would you think about them?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'd probably say they have an alcohol problem. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about it.
Let's talk about that. Let's dive into that. Yeah. What does it mean to pursue whole? Like, why do you call your shop Pursue Whole?
So wholeness comes from the Hebrew word shalom. So if you go back thousands of years, there's this word called shalom. And in Hebrew, it's often translated as peace, which is an improper translation for that word. It's actually not translated as peace. It's translated as completeness or wholeness. But it is a comprehensive flourishing of the whole person. It's the best version of, like, you think about integrative care, like the whole person care. Wholeness is that concept of flourishing, of the way we're supposed to operate. So for me,
nothing missing, nothing broken.
Yeah, it's just like this beautiful state where we're connected to ourselves, we're connected with others, God, and, our craft, calling, and purpose. So for me, wholeness is a combination of 4 key relationships. It's a deep connection with ourself, a healthy connection with others, a connection to our Creator. So whatever your faith is or belief, I think we could all agree that something made us, whether it's even just a minute thing, you have to call that your Creator. You are created somehow. So the Creator has to ask the question, or the created has to ask the question, who is my Creator and why did they create me? It's a very important question. And then that actually leads into the next one, which is, what is my craft, calling, and purpose? My connection to my craft, my calling, and my purpose. So living a whole life, pursuing whole, is not a destination. It is a pursuit. It's a journey towards deep connection with my authentic self, meaningful connection with others, figuring out this whole thing of why I'm here, who created me, why do I exist? And then that bleeds into, okay, if that's about connection, what do I do? What's my purpose? What's my passion? And getting really clear on that, getting defined on that. So that's why we call it Pursue Whole.
I love it.
And I think wholeness is this new, around this idea of wellness, which will, by 2028, will be a $9 trillion industry, just a massive industry, from 6.5 to 2 years ago. The thing that is often missing is this element of wholeness. And I do think wholeness will be a new concept in the area of wellness moving forward, because I think it's what people are really looking for.
Totally.
They're grabbing to all the tools, but what they're really looking for is, man, I want to feel connected to myself.
But it's the same stuff. It's like, let me just, they're ice plunging to put it on social media.
Yeah.
It's virtual signaling, or it's so siloed. And I've talked to you a little bit about this with Eric, our mutual friend, about this, where it's like this whole longevity and wellness conversation becomes this anxiety-provoking thing where it's like I'm obsessed over every little, measuring every little thing.
High anxiety, high control, fear of death.
Yeah, fear of death. Yeah,
and
totally.
A glutton for punishment. I say that because I look at some of these optimization people, all these hard things they do. I remember Joe Rogan saying this. It's on a podcast with Gary Brecka, and they're talking, and Joe Rogan says, yeah, I have this part of me that, when it doesn't want to get in the cold plunge, it's like this little bitch. It's like, I don't want to get in the cold plunge. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, that's interesting. He's like, what I tell that part? I say, shut the F up, get in the cold plunge. And I have this part of my brain that's the general, and I just make it happen. And I'm sitting there going, that is so opposite of what this idea of wholeness is. You have these parts inside of yourself, one that is feeling fear, scared, whatever it is, insecurity. And yeah, maybe you don't want that one to take over, but you're shaming, you're like commanding. That is so disintegrated inside of yourself. And here they are talking about health and well-being. And I'm like, that is so not
totally not health and well-being.
Health and well-being. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's internal family systems is what you're.
It's internal family systems, but just this gluttony, this punishment, glutton for punishment, where you just, the cold plunges, the pain. You know what it's really about? Sometimes it's just about, you don't know how, it's like punishing yourself because you don't know how to love yourself. It's weird. It's like they have to do the painful thing. Yeah. Why? I'm really curious around what their childhood was like and how they experienced pain. Like they're parenting themselves in probably a very similar way.
Well, if you fought in the UFC like Joe Rogan, then you probably have some type of
some sense of pain tolerance. And I'm a big believer that pain is a pathway to growth. I'm a strong believer of that. But then there's people who all they do is put themselves in positions of pain, and they don't know how to offer love and compassion. They're low empathy, low compassion, and that you can't have a good relationship like that.
Totally. Yeah, I definitely, that resonates with me, because I think that my own emotional work of just the internal family systems and being like, you can still move into the cold plunge or do the whatever, but like still listening to that scared part of you and
empower it to find the courage to face it, but don't shame it and call it a little bitch.
Yeah, right. Go watch Inside Out 1 and 2, and you'll have the crash course
I don't think they're gonna watch Inside Out. But
Andy, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Where can people find out more about Pusue Whole and about your work?
Yeah, they can go on our website at pursuewhole.com. They can find me on LinkedIn at Andy Maurer. We have 2 products that people can...
tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have 2 products. We call them vision guides. So what we try to do is we try to create frameworks for people to create vision around their purpose and identity and their family. So one of our vision guides is around purpose and identity. You work through it. You get a 1-page document at the end that you produce, which is, what is my tribe? What is my 5-year vision of who I want to be as a person? Not what I want to do for work, but identity work, your core motivators, and your I am statements. So that's one document. Our other document and product is our family vision and values, which takes people through a journey with their spouse or themselves to define what are your family values. You give each person a name in your family and describe the unique value that they bring to the world around them. You create a declaration, and you create some rules of engagement. What are the rules that we live by that we're not okay with in this family? And you set boundaries. So those 2 products are really to give people vision and a user journey around, I don't know my identity, I don't know what I want. Go through that product. And if you're lacking clarity for your family on what is the purpose of family, where are we even headed as a family, then pick up the family vision and values one.
I can speak to. I haven't done. I'm going to go check it out, because we've done family vision and mission and stuff. And I think there's something like interestingly motivating about doing that work. So if you're considering that, definitely go check it out, because I think I've gotten more jazzed about my work. I've gotten more jazzed about being healthy. Yeah. I've gotten more excited, like, as we've built our family and thinking about, okay, this is where we're going as a tribe, as a unit. Here is our mission as a family. And like, I can't get there if I'm sick. I can't get there if my back continues to have issues. I can't get there if, Revitalize isn't flourishing. And it's really motivating when you kind of get outside your own head and you start to think about the people that you lead in your family. And
it's powerful. It's part of my purpose. People at the end of their life, they regret not spending more time with the people that they loved. And it's typically family. And no amount of success, money, or fame is going to keep your kids around long term. You got to know how to connect with yourself and connect with them, because guess what? Otherwise, they won't want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
That's a sad thing for parents, to not have kids that want to spend time with them. So don't make that your reality. Cast a vision, do deep work, and be purposeful in your life.
Yeah, I love it. Mic drop. Thanks, Andy, for coming on.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
This was awesome.